What's up, Gainsters? We have a special Zoom call today for all of you. This is with a professional confidence coach. Her name is Her name is Kerri Jokala. Sorry, I'm a little dyslexic right now. Kerri Jokala is going to jump on and go through some awesome coaching tools with us, how to have more confidence in your life, how to overcome that negative self-talk, and go and achieve your goals, because confidence is key in achieving any goal. We have to believe that we can achieve it before we can actually achieve it. So it's going to be super awesome. I'm super excited. Make sure you get out pen and paper and take notes for this so that you can take away some tactical tools and information for you specifically. Sorry, Kerri, do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little background, and then I'll kind of let you, steal the show now.
All right. Well, it's nice to meet everybody. I am a confidence coach. I am also actually a personal trainer and a group exercise instructor. That's kind of where I started, was in the fitness space. And I've always kind of had this nudge, though, for a long time, because confidence is one of the bigger struggles that I feel like I've overcome as I was getting older. So I really always had this nudge on my heart to teach people about confidence. So I've been working towards that in the last year or so. I've got a podcast called Rockstar Confidence, and working on starting to build up coaching clientele and putting some services and products out there. So yeah, and I'm almost certified in Reiki, which is another service, and I'm going to add to everything. So so what we had talked about kind of gearing today towards was steps to overcoming self-doubt and the negative self-talk. And it's especially common, obviously, in the fitness space, because we're so focused on our bodies and what we look like and what other people think of what we look like, and going to the gym and being worried about if our form is correct and if other people are judging us on what we're doing, if we're doing things right, if we look good, so there's so much that goes into it. But the thing about it is that it's not always physical. There's always something deeper there that is the reason why we're struggling with the confidence, or why we're struggling with hitting our goals or maintaining habits or things like that. So one of the things that I think is important to acknowledge first is that a lot of us live in either the past or the future. So we spend a lot of time, if we're living in the past, we're replaying old situations in our mind. We're thinking about things that happened. We're feeling bad about past failures. And that can lead to things like depression and other issues like that. If we're stuck in the future, it means we're always worried about what might happen, what might not happen. And that's one of the roots of anxiety for a lot of people, is that worry about the future. And the important thing to start noting is that neither one of those things exist. We're only here in the present. So if we can learn how to be more present and more mindful, that's going to help us with building up our confidence and being able to take those forward steps that we need to take to achieve our goals. So the first step that I think needs to be taken at gaining confidence, but I do think an important first step for sure, is self-forgiveness, and figuring out, like, using that as a tool to figure out how and why you got to where you are today. And a lot of us can beat ourselves up for, I didn't make the right eating habits, or I let myself go, I let myself slip, or maybe we got injured and that's my fault because I didn't do this correctly. I'm stupid, I should have been smarter. Learning to forgive ourselves for that instead of beating ourselves up for whatever may have led us to where we are today, and looking at anything that we might label a failure, reframing it as a lesson. And I know that we've all heard that before, and it can sound cliche, but I really don't think enough of us do that. We spend too much time beating ourselves up about things that we did wrong or that we think we did wrong, instead of using it as a learning experience and realizing that maybe we needed to go through that to be able to take that next step forward. So in that regard, knowing too that your mind looks for evidence of whatever you tell it. So if you tell yourself that you're going to fail again, if you tell yourself you're probably not going to hit your goal, your brain will say, okay, and it'll look for evidence to support what you just told it. If instead you're telling your mind, I'm awesome, I'm strong, I'm confident, I can do this, your brain goes, okay, great, and it looks for evidence of that. So the choice is really up to you which way you want to think and what you want to look for evidence of. It doesn't mean that if you're looking for evidence of the positive, that's all you're going to find. Obviously, we're still going to run into some struggles here and there, but if you're more focused on the positive aspect of it, you're going to see better success and you're going to see more of the positive because of that. So going an extra step with that self-forgiveness, I think it can be helpful to write it in a letter and write out specifically, what do you forgive yourself for? What have you been beating yourself up about? Do you need to forgive yourself for beating yourself up about it? You know, whatever you need to go back in time and forgive yourself for, and then burn that letter. So you have kind of that symbolic act of letting go. And obviously we know we should burn it safely, but I'll still throw that in there as a disclaimer. And then from there, taking steps to learn how to be more present and really get to know yourself better, get to know why you do the things that you do. And again, staying in that forgiveness vein where you're not beating yourself up for it, you're just starting to acknowledge what got you to where you are. And in being present, that's where we learn to take control of our thoughts. And that's how we can start to turn the negative self-talk around, because the problem is our thoughts are going, best analogy I think I've ever heard is to think of them like a train. And if you can visualize yourself, like I have a meditation that I put together where you are sitting and imagining that you're in a train station and you're watching all these thoughts go by. The trains are the thoughts. And the goal of that exercise is to just sit there and just observe. So you are detached from your thoughts, not in a way that means that you don't feel anything. You're not meaning to detach yourself from any emotions or, put a wall up or anything, but really just to learn that your thoughts are not your identity. And so as you're watching these trains go by, you just work on staying detached and observing them. And if you find that you've hopped onto one of them, practicing catching yourself, bringing that train back to the station so that you can sit back down, or maybe find a more positive train to hop onto. Because I've heard that we have about 70,000 thoughts per day. And I don't know an exact or even a rough percentage, but the majority of those thoughts are negative. So what do we do about that? We can't stop our thoughts. It is completely impossible to stop our thoughts because our brain is always working, because there's always things for our brain to be doing. So we're always thinking about things. But what we can do is learn how to slow those thoughts down so that just like those trains, we can learn to just observe them and not judge them, not hop on those trains that are going to take us back into those negative past circumstances that we keep reliving, or bringing us into the future of the things that we're worried about that haven't even happened yet and might not happen, but we're spending all this energy on. So learning how to slow them down will allow you to grab hold of them so that you can notice when you're having those negative thoughts and then use that as an opportunity to turn them around. And one thing I wanted to notice before I moved on to the step about turning those thoughts around is just to realize that a lot of those negative thoughts that we have typically are not from ourselves. So even if you're hearing your own voice in your head telling you that you're not strong enough, or you're going to fail again, or whatever negative thought you're telling yourself, it most likely at some point in your life came from somebody else first, and you assimilated that into your brain. And now your voice is the one telling you that thought. And if you look at, people have maybe gone through like a traumatic event or something like that, they probably most likely didn't believe these negative things about themselves before this traumatic event happened, before they met their abuser, before whatever happened that made them start thinking badly about themselves. They probably thought they were, if not awesome, at least great people, like with dreams and hopes and goals and intelligent and beautiful and whatnot, or at least working towards it. And once they went through what they went through, if it was somebody else telling them over and over and over and over again that they're not good enough in whatever aspect, eventually, even if they didn't believe it right away, they're going to start to believe that. And we attach ourselves to these negative thoughts much more easily than we do the positive ones. It takes a lot of positive compliments, affirmations, experiences to undo just one. So if we can remember that it was a process that got us to the point of thinking these negative thoughts, then there should be some hope in the idea that we can do the same thing with the positive ones. We can start that process over again, telling ourselves the positive thoughts and the positive self-talk over and over and over again until we believe it. So that's where the step of doing affirmations comes in. And I tell this not to try to sell you on this, but it's a free thing anyway. I have an ebook that's all about creating your own affirmations. But one of the things I really wanted to get at and clear up in creating your own affirmations is how they can sometimes feel like lies in the beginning. Like they can feel cheesy. If you think of that Stuart Smalley, if you know that old Saturday Night Live skit, like, because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Those are actually really great affirmations, but it's done in such a cheesy way. And it's a good example of how they can feel like lies, or they can feel cheesy. And I really wanted to try to find a way to dispel that. Like, how do we get it not to feel like a lie? And I think I've come to the conclusion recently that they're just going to feel like lies in the beginning. And there's not a whole lot we can do about that. What we can do is use some best practices to craft the most personal and the best affirmations for us that are empowering. And how your thoughts are that you're telling yourself, it could take a lot of repetition before they stop feeling like lies. So if we just don't worry about that and we try to get that thought out of our head, detach from that thought that this feels like a lie, if we just accept that we just need to have that repetition and we get in the habit of doing those affirmations, eventually they will no longer feel like lies, and you are going to start believing them. Because like I said, your mind looks for evidence of whatever you're telling yourself. So if you're telling yourself that you're strong, that you have high willpower, that you can get through this workout, that you can make good choices on your eating habits, you tell that to yourself enough times, your brain's going to start to believe it because it's going to find the evidence. Yeah.
I kind of want to add on to what you're saying here with this, because I think this is something that's really helped me so it doesn't feel like a lie, is like, think of a time where you actually felt that before in your life.
Yes.
And like I was thinking about this today, just, like really
think of,
when you felt like, let's say your affirmation is like, I am strong. Like, think of a time in your life where you felt strong. And then like really, I think like adding on that visualization aspect to your affirmations is so, so powerful. And like just allowing yourself to feel that, like what it felt like being strong or confident. I was out on like a bike ride this afternoon, and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like a little kid again. I was just like happy and like riding all fast, and I was like, I feel so good. And I just felt so confident riding my bike this afternoon. And I was like thinking about this confidence, course that we're doing. And I was like, man, I think like to feel more confident, it's like you got to feel more confident. Like you actually have to feel it. So like thinking of like times you felt confident before in your life and like harnessing that emotion, and then just like allowing yourself to feel that, and like doing things too that like make you feel confident.
Right.
So you just like remember what that feels like. I think is so awesome.
That's a really good point. Yeah, just like tapping into those times in your life, even if it's not related to exactly what you're doing that you need that boost of confidence for, just whatever it was that made you happy, that made you feel fulfilled, that made you feel like your best self, just go back and think about those positive things in your past and allow yourself to feel those emotions. So you get that practice of knowing what it feels like, and you make it easier to tap into it. And then too, I think really some of the best practices too for that are like making your own affirmations. Start by writing out whatever the negative thing is that you tell yourself over and over again, that you're not worth it, you're not worthy of love, you could have done this, or you should have done that, or you're going to ruin your progress, whatever it is that you're telling yourself, to write that down and then cross it out and rewrite it in a positive frame. So that can be a helpful first step if you're feeling lost on what type of affirmations to tell yourself. And you also want to make sure that you keep them in present tense. So not even a future tense, like not, I'm going to have a great workout. Your brain goes, okay, have fun. It doesn't know what to do with that future part of your statement. So reframing it like, I am strong, just something that you can latch onto in that moment, that your brain can go, okay, we're strong, or I have endurance, just something like that, that keeps it in present tense and not so much in the future tense. And also, I think word choice is very important too. Like one that I thought of that could be, some people might say like, I have strong willpower today. Well, that's present tense. It's positively worded, but it could still keep you a little on edge depending on your personality, because all you're thinking about is your willpower, and that aspect of willpower where you have to say no to certain things, which is now putting you in the negative. So maybe reframing it by saying, I make healthy choices. So it's just the perspective that you put on it and how you need to spin it. Thinking of how your personality reacts, like how you are in certain situations, whatever you know about yourself, how do you need to word it so that you can feel successful with that particular affirmation. Just thinking about what is it that you are afraid of, like what happened in the past. If we go back to, this idea of living in the past or needing to forgive yourself, what is it that you're afraid of? Because it might not really be fitness related. It could be, another interaction that maybe you had with someone else in your life, maybe an adult who made you feel like you were not safe or not good enough, working on reframing those thoughts and rewriting those into affirmations that you tell yourself over and over again so that you can stop that cycle, and then as far as doing the meditations to keep yourself present, or the affirmations just to turn your self-talk around, it's really important to make that a habit. It's not something, just like fitness, like it's not something you can do one time and then be like, okay, I did it. It's, we're good for the week. You got to do it ideally every day, but at least a few times a week a good handful of times to get yourself in that practice, in that habit. And the way that we want to make things a habit, the best thing you can do is something called habit stacking, where you attach it to a habit that you already have in place. So for example, the affirmations, you could be like, when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm going to, in my head, recite some affirmations. Or when I'm done brushing my teeth, that's when I'm going to take my time to stand in the mirror and say my affirmations to myself out loud. If you attach it to something you already do, it makes it easier to remember to do this new thing that you want to put in place. Because I know, especially when we have shifts in our lives, if we've recently had a move, or it's just some new event that kind of overhauled everything, or a pandemic hits, or it can be really hard to keep those positive habits going. But if you can think of something that you do without fail every day, and make a plan to stick this new habit right next to that, either before or after, or even during, if that's possible, then you're going to have more success in making these things part of your daily life. So I feel like I blew through that, so I hope that all made sense.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love it. I took a bunch of notes too that I'll share with everybody. Becky, when we chat, me and Becky, I did a consult with her. Was that just last week or maybe 2 weeks ago? But we went 2 weeks ago. We went through we created an affirmations list. I'm curious if you've revisited that.
It's actually kind of funny because how you just, Kerri had said about habit stacking, I didn't realize there was a definition for that because I've been doing that. It's so crazy because like I'll be taking a shower and I usually brush my teeth in the shower and I'm like, okay, today's going to be a great day. And I will say it out loud. And like, I'll be doing these affirmations to myself and just saying them out loud while brushing my teeth. And then I'm squatting in the shower, like doing actual like squats, like, and it's crazy because I didn't know when you had just saying, I just thought I was like crazy. Kind of just sets the tone for the day.
Crazy,
and then
awesome.
when you have a great, yeah. And like when you have one of those things, like this week has been really like up and down for me. But it's like if I start the day off like that, I just kind of feel like when you have those bumps in your day, when you start off that way, it doesn't make it seem like it's going to be a bad day. Kind of just like, wait a minute, Becky, you just went over it this morning. We're not going to dwell on the bad crap that's happening right now. And, like those bad things can lead to other bad habits that you're so used to like going towards, like, going towards the kitchen for me and then like grabbing something. It's like, wait a minute, no. Like, I'm not even hungry. Like, so it's just like, I love that you had mentioned about habit stacking because like I have been doing that, but I just never knew that it was an actual thing.
Yeah.
So
there's actually, what I learned it from, there's a book called Atomic Habits that walks you through that whole process. It's a really good book, so I'd highly recommend that. I like that you mentioned about doing it in the morning because that actually is a very important point. Like I think whenever you can fit, just like fitness, whenever you can fit it in is the best time to do it, but ideally if you can do it right away in the morning before everyone else is coming at you and you've got all these things and people pulling you in all these different directions, if you have started your day by taking control of your own mindset, just like you said, it's going to be that much harder for someone else to sway you or stick you into a negative mindset because you've already taken control. As we start checking our social media or we start putting out fires right away for other people, we don't take that time for ourselves, our day is just going to run amok. So
Right.
I had another really awesome thought too. Like our thoughts are things that we already know, or like our brain has already memorized these phrases, right? And those are what run through our head. Like things don't generally run through our head unless we've read it or heard it, or like heard something like it, and our brain kind of runs with it. So I think it's amazing, like being able to be so intentional. I think this is my favorite thing about affirmations, is like being intentional with what I'm thinking. Like we actually have more control than we think of our thoughts. And I mean, our thought, I think like the relationship between thoughts and emotions, like this is something that has like kind of blown my mind thinking about more and more lately, and just kind of realizing the effect that these have on each other. Because our emotions can cause certain thoughts. When we're feeling anxiety, it's like we have anxious thoughts, right? And we think different things than if we're feeling peace and calm and confident. Like that feeling produces like a whole different stream of thoughts, which is crazy. But then like being able to control our feelings through our thoughts, and then like harnessing an emotion through our affirmations and through our visualization, and like getting ourselves, like we can create an emotion, and then that will lead us to like a whole different stream of thoughts for that day.
Well, and what I've learned recently, like over this last year and all the life coaching studying that I've been doing, that the way the train tends to go is that you have a thought, which creates your emotion, which leads to the decisions that you make, which leads to the actions that you take and the behaviors that you have, which produces a certain result or outcome. So that's why it can be so hard to change certain behaviors or actions or the way we feel about things, because we're skipping all those steps before. We're trying to change this part in the train, but we got to go all the way back here to the thought and take control of the thought in order to change everything else. So that's why meditation and affirmations can be so helpful, because those things help you learn to take control of your thoughts, to slow down, to be more mindful, to detach yourself from the thoughts, not make them your identity. So like if you wake up in the morning and you start off feeling negative, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and you don't take control of that, that's how the rest of your day is going to go. So taking those steps and those actions to start with the thought is so important.
Yeah, I think too, like today I woke up just kind of feeling lazy, and like it kind of just all morning I'm pregnant. So
Oh yeah.
I don't think I told some of you guys. I'm telling some people, but I'm like feeling it, like I was so tired, and I was kind of letting it like get me in a funk. And like after I worked out at the gym, I just felt so nauseous, and I just wanted to like just be lazy all day. And but like I got home and I wanted to eat a bunch of Halloween candy. But I'm like so grateful for that habit of like meditation, because I'm like, Heidi, just go outside in your backyard and meditate. I just went out there and just like let the feelings come and go, and like just let the thoughts come and go. And then I got intentional again with my thoughts and what I wanted from life, and it totally flipped my day around, and it flipped my emotions around, and it's pretty powerful. So that's kind of my current experience. I mean, I think that it's still, I've been like meditating and doing hypnosis and stuff for like 6 years, kind of on and off. But I don't think it ever, like you never get to this place of perfection where you never experience like negative emotion.
Right.
Like it's just not possible. We're human. Like we'll still always have those emotions. We'll still always have those thoughts. But like, I think what's most important is like building in those habits. And it's like when you get used to doing it every single day, it's like now instead of my reaction of just going and binging on a bunch of candy, it's like my reaction was go outside and meditate and flip my day around. And now I like have such a, you know, I've had an amazing day that I'm so grateful for.
Off of one of the things you said too, is just recognizing too, like you said, that like confidence is a journey. There's not really a final level where, you know, you're playing the video game, you get to the final boss, you beat the boss, and you're like, I'm confident now, and nothing can shake me. Like, that's just not how it works. You're going to have up days and down days, but the more you practice, sorry for my crying kids, my husband has them there. But the more you practice that muscle of staying in control of your thoughts and learning how to tap into those confident feelings, the easier it gets to flip around the negative thoughts. It's just that practice, I think, that strengthens that muscle and makes it easier, but it never makes it perfect. There's no, like, unless you're somehow magically going to become the Buddha, there's not really a highest level to attain. I mean, if you do, that's awesome, you know, but for the rest of us humans, I don't think so. So giving yourself grace too is important. So if you know, it's not to say, I think it's important to, didn't mean to skip over this at all, but it's important to acknowledge that we are going to have down days. Like, it is impossible to be perfectly happy and positive. It is unrealistic. If that's how you're acting, you need to slow down and get in touch with your thoughts again, because you're covering something up if you're pretending to be this happy, positive person all the time. You know, there's nothing wrong with putting a positive spin all the time, but you do still have to allow yourself to feel all your emotions. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to get angry with yourself. But how quickly can you turn it around? You know, don't sit with it forever. Sit with it for however long you need to. Like, I don't think anyone can tell anybody else how long it's okay to feel a certain way, but you know when you're reaching a point where you're like, okay, enough is enough. It's time to start flipping this around. So I always think the sooner the better, but feel what you need to feel, go through it, work through it, be kind to yourself, and then flip it around.
Yeah. I've heard this phrase a few times lately that is like really stuck with me. And I've like never, like I've heard of it, like I've seen this concept, but I never knew there was like a name to it. But the concept of toxic positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that?
I have.
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And I'm like, there's some people that are just so like falsely positive that it just is kind of frustrating. Like, you're just like, you're not even real. Like,
yeah.
And like, I feel like I'm a very positive person, but at the same time, like sometimes there's some people that like if they're too positive, but like, I don't know, it bugs me or doesn't well with me for some reason. But
well, I think that's where the issue of like the fake it till you make it false confidence comes in. And I have a real problem with that phrase of fake it till you make it. Like, and I've struggled, like I've even done, I've done multiple episodes on my podcast about this, trying to sort this out, because on one hand, obviously, there are times when you're not feeling confident where you have to tell yourself to be confident. Like, you need to step into it and kind of pretend in a way, but there's a different level of it when you're being fake about it. You know,
well, and I think when you're like fake about it, you have discordance in yourself.
Right. Yeah.
I think like on the flip side of that, instead of like fake it till you make it, it's like feel it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like actually go through the process of feeling and becoming what you want to become, you know? And I think that is a process. And I think along with like toxic positivity, it's like you're pretending to be something you're not without actually going through the process of getting there. And you are suppressing emotions. You're pretending they don't exist. And that's what I love about meditation is like, it gives you this time and space to actually feel everything. Like there's so many times when I'll go lay down and meditate and like, I just start crying And like, there's so much like pent up emotion that I didn't even know was there. Like, I thought I was fine. I thought my day was going awesome. I thought I was like full of energy. But as soon as I just like lay down and feel, it's like, oh my gosh, like, and a lot, you know, sometimes it's amazing emotion. It's just like love for my kids or my spouse or my life. And sometimes it's like hard emotion of like, I don't know, just like dealing with certain things and fears and insecurities and stuff like that, you know. And it's
well, and I think that's one reason why meditation can seem scary almost, or out of reach for some people, depending on what you've gone through in your life, that you're either trying to pretend didn't happen because you don't want to feel it again, or you don't want to think about it. And I'm not saying we need to go back and experience all the bad things again, but we do need to have that level of acknowledgement of what we have gone through, forgive ourselves for holding on to it, or for feeling bad about it, or for telling ourselves that it was our fault. You know, that self-forgiveness step is important. And then the idea that when you're meditating, that you're suddenly going to be alone with your thoughts. Like, I don't want to do that, you know, because you might know that, like, I know there's something hidden in there. I don't want to talk about it right now. But if you really want to start to feel better and you want to move forward, you have to take those baby steps. So I think looking up some guided meditations can be helpful, because again, like, the point isn't to try to stop your thoughts, because like I said, that's impossible. We're never going to stop our thoughts. We're not going to be sitting there silent. Something's always going to be floating around in there. But a guided meditation, if you choose ones that are applicable to what you need to work on, they're going to walk you through that visualization, through what you need to think about and stay focused on, so that you can allow those thoughts to come in kind of quietly and safely, instead of just trying to sit there in silence and allowing your mind to go wherever it's going to go. And then all of a sudden, you know, you need to schedule an appointment with a therapist, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But, you know, like, I just wanted to do a meditation today. I didn't want to have to call my psychiatrist.
Hey, if that's the prompting you get through the process, it might be,
if that's what you need to do it. But
I think a lot of times I'll like have insights, you know, with certain things that I need to do, that, you know, it's like your brain kind of goes through this process of like cleansing and redirecting and yeah, like, I don't know, like, I think that those insights, whatever they may be, are pretty incredible when you get to that. Like, for me, I noticed when I have ADD, so meditating was really hard for me at first. Like, and it always kind of is. When I first sit down, it's like I'm thinking of all these 100 things that I have to do or that I should do. And I always initially feel guilty meditating, like taking the time to just sit down and not do anything. But you know, I've had several professionals tell me you can never meditate too much. So I'm like, okay.
And you can't do it wrong either.
Yeah.
Whatever anybody's told you, you have 2
hours. Yeah, they're like, you can meditate for 2 hours a day. You would not be wasting a single minute. So that like totally alleviated my fears of like, okay, it's okay to like take that time to meditate, you know, because the payout, I think, is incredible. Like, being able to have a sound mind, being able to have peace, and like, I've also, another interesting thing I've been like reading a lot about, or just listening to different books, is like living in your creative zone or your creative genius. And I think that you can tap into that like so much better and have so much more awareness around what your creative zone is when you're more in a state of like peace and calm and confidence. And I think that totally comes through meditating every day.
Absolutely. As you can tell, it can be tough for me to have that quiet time. But I know, like, full disclosure, like, I right now do not have a solid meditation practice at all. I'm dying to get back to it, but the way my day currently is with 2 very little ones is I get woken up at somebody else's request and need to start putting out fires right away. So I don't get that opportunity just yet. I'm impatiently waiting on my youngest to always sleep through the night where I can count on it. He does it once in a while, but not often enough where I can like make a schedule like, okay, I'm going to get up at this time and do this. I'm not there yet. So I'm giving myself grace. And I do what I can at night before bed, especially with working on my Reiki practice, because that involves a lot of meditation and self-reflection and that kind of stuff too. But I do know from my past experience, when I was able to have a more set meditation practice in the mornings, I felt so good all the time. Like my mindset was so on point. And again, not that I didn't have dips or bad days, but like everything just felt better. I felt lighter. I felt happier, like everything was great, and not to a level of toxic positivity, just, feeling good about who I am and what I'm doing and the impact I'm having on other people. And, so if that's something that you can make that habit, do it when you can. But like you said, if you can do it in the morning and make it a habit right away, that's really the best way to go about it.
And I think all the work that you've done prior is like helping. I think that those help carry us through those hard times where, we're not able to have that regular practice.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely gone through those times in my life. I feel very fortunate right now. Both my kids are in school where I'm like, hey, this, and I know I have a little baby coming soon. So I'm like, this is my recovery time. I'm like just, doing a lot of my own work right now because I know my days are coming.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think that practice, it's like, for me, it allows me to like get into a meditative state quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was more practice on a regular, longer basis, it's like I could just kind of like the times when I needed to like draw on inner peace or inner calm because there was chaos, it's like felt like I could do that quicker in those moments of distress or chaos,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll pray you'll get through this, Kerri.
We'll get there. He blesses me very randomly with sleeping through the night. Like actually this week, 3 nights in a row, he slept through the night, but the last 2 nights,
no.
He gets me to a point where I start thinking, is this it? Are we there? No.
Oh my goodness. Have you tried affirmations with your kids?
I have not, but that's a really good idea.
I've like done some of that with my kids because my son used to always like come and wake me up, and before bed I would just like, okay, now sleep. I want you to sleep through the night. Like sleeping through the night is so good for you. It's gonna help your brain. It'll make you strong like Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him all these things, so that it like helps him when he does wake up. I don't know how old your youngest is.
He's 14 months.
Oh, okay.
I think 14 months.
Little,
yeah.
so
my oldest is 3 though, but I do spend a lot of time telling him like, wow, you're so smart, you're so strong. And he has assimilated those into his brain because I'll ask him something like he'll say a word that like I had no idea he knew. I'm like, how do you know that? And he'll go, I'm smart.
I love it.
Yes, you are.
Oh, that's awesome. I love seeing like the confidence that kids naturally have is that's what I was thinking of when you're like, we all used to like have confidence at one point in our lives, but someone, down the road told us something negative. I remember like my thing that was like stuck in my head for so long was like, this kid in high school told me I had weird kneecaps. It was like the weirdest thing, but for some reason that like stuck in my head, and I was always self-conscious about my dang knees. Like,
no.
About their knees. And I don't know, it's just funny. And like, we don't even realize it's made me more like conscious and aware of the things I say to other people too. Like not just like say what's on my mind, but like make sure that I'm speaking well to other people, because you don't know what thoughts kind of get stuck in people's heads and like on repeat,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
then
you
they
got to
have
be very conscious of what you
to like
say.
reprogram those thoughts.
Well, if an example from me, I was a little older, I was in college, and I was actually, I've gone through so much in my life. So I was actually a theater major and a writing major in college. And I was in one of my acting classes, and we had to do these little scenes with a couple other people. And one of the girls who was in my group for our scene, she was also a singer, and she was like super high soprano. So her speaking voice was naturally pretty high. And we got done with the scene, and our professor was going through and giving us all our critiques. He went to her, praised her for lowering the pitch of her voice, which, nothing against her, but I remember thinking like she was still pretty high, but okay, I guess if you hear a difference, sure. And then he comes to me and he says that the pitch of my voice was so high and annoying that if this were a real play and he realized he was going to have to listen to me for more than 10 minutes, he would walk out.
No.
Yeah. So I was still in the midst of my personal confidence struggle with a lot of my negative self-talk and everything else that was going on from my childhood, like during those days. So like somehow I managed to hold it together during the rest of class. I don't know how. I think I just kind of shut myself down. And as soon as we were outside of those doors, it was like,
Yeah. Seemed like part of your wishes that you would have broken down in front of him. Like
I do too, but I don't know why I didn't. I think I went into my shutdown mode, you know?
I'm the same way. Like, I'm afraid to show my emotion when someone says something hurtful to me. But that's another thing. Like, I'm teaching my kids, like, hey, if someone does something that you don't like, you tell them, hey, I didn't like that. Or, hey, that made me feel uncomfortable. So I think that's so important. Like, we don't even realize, I think so many people don't realize the hurt that they cause to other people. And we're always it's hard to say that out loud, that someone hurt us.
Well, another example from that front that's actually more fitness related for me from an instructor point of view. So when I teach my classes, I'm like super weird, goofball crazy. I purposely tell bad jokes. I dance. If it's a class that I'm coaching versus doing with the class, like as long as I know you and I know you're not going to feel awkward about it, like I won't go up to somebody that I don't know and do this, but I'll go with people that I know and I'll like kind of like dance by them, or I'll like serenade them. And there was a time during one of the classes I had them doing a circuit, and it was like an individual circuit. So everybody was doing the same thing, but at their own pace for like 10 minutes. And it involved leaving the room to go do a lap, and people were in and out. And so I'm just trying to like be entertaining at this point, because I've said all the cues that I can say to help keep their form safe, and everyone seems to be doing fine. So I'm just trying to keep the energy going, and I'm dancing around again, and I get to, I believe in a thing called Love was playing, and there's that point at the end where he's like, ha, ha, ha. And I wanted to sing that part. And I went up to a girl who I know, she's always in my classes. She's super nice. I know she laughs whenever I do this kind of stuff. So I went up to her and I kind of positioned myself, and that came up, and I was like, wah! And the closest person to her was still like 5-6 feet that way. This was pre-COVID. And, I'm not in her space whatsoever. I'm not serenading her. I'm looking at this person and I'm doing my thing, and that's all I was gonna do. And I even moved the mic away so it wasn't too loud. And then I was gonna walk away. Well, a lot of times when I would do stupid, silly stuff with people like that, I would say into the mic as I walked away, like pretending to talk for them, like, could you leave me alone? I'm trying to work out here. Just kind of like the self-deprecating humor, whatever. And after I did that, this other woman looked at me and she's like, I'm trying to work out here. And so I laughed initially because I thought she was playing off of what I always say. And she goes, I'm serious. And I was just like, okay.
Oh, man.
All right, so my confidence level went from
Right.
here to all the way down here. But I had to hold it together because I still had like 10 minutes of class left to do. And it was that same thing where like, I don't want to let you know that you got to me because I still have all these other people that I need to show up for right now and be the best instructor that I can be in these last 10 minutes. So if I'm suddenly moping about it and I let you know that you got to me, then you've won and I can't let you in. So, but it was that practice of how quickly can I catch myself when I get caught off guard like that and flip it back around and understand that I didn't intentionally do anything to offend her.
Yeah.
And so she probably has something going on in her day that made her react like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it okay,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to internalize it. And I'm going to then continue as quickly as I can to be my normal self again and start raising my confidence level back up. And it doesn't always happen that you get to interact with these people again, but later on, like a week or two later, I was filming for my body pump certification and she showed up in that class and I went, oh, come on, really? But she was so nice to me. Like I never said anything to her about the previous experience. I said nothing, you know. I just was like kind of acknowledged her and I walked away and left her alone. But she was super nice. Like there was a moment where like I had a sports bra on underneath obviously, but my shirt had shifted a little bit. And she caught me at one moment when I was off camera for a second and she's like, just so you know, it's just like I don't know if it would help you or hurt you, but your shirt's a little. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And she's like, okay, good. I'm like, so clearly evidence right there that before she was just having a bad day. So that's how you have to have that practice. If I hadn't had that practice of catching myself in moments like that, I'm sure that I would not have been able to turn my mindset back around that quickly, you know, as quickly as I was able to that day. If I were still in that same space of when my professor told me that my voice was high-pitched and annoying, I might have started tearing up a little bit, you know, but I'm in a different space today because I've consciously gone through that practice of catching those negative thoughts, telling myself that it's not about me, you know, even if it seems on the surface like it's about you, it's really not about you. When you boil things all the way down, people are acting the way that they act and saying the things that they do because of their own personal experiences. So at the root of everything, nothing is ever about you when it's from somebody else. And that's why you need to recognize too, if we go all the way back to realizing that those negative voices in your head and those negative things that you're saying to yourself are not from you. You didn't start telling yourself that when you were a little kid. You thought you were the most awesome thing on the planet. You thought you were super smart, you know, and you were and you are. So there's no reason to continue to internalize whatever these other people have told you. You know, grab that inner critic, rename it, call him Bob or Karen. Like, I'm not going to take that from you, Karen. My apologies to anybody named Karen. But, but, you know, learn to separate yourself from that and flip it around and realize that it's not you saying those things to you. It's other people, and hurt people hurt people. So we got to give ourselves grace, and we got to give other people grace, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Like having that awareness of like, you know, they must be going through something hard, giving them forgiveness and being patient with them too. I think that's even something that I have to remind myself of with my husband a lot, is like, we have to have patience with each other of like going through, like sometimes he'll come and tell me something hard that I just don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll get frustrated with him, and he'll think I'm mad at him for telling me something hard. I'm like, no, I'm like, sorry. And I have to catch myself, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, this is hard for me to hear right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have patience with me.
Yeah.
And like those few simple things, I think totally change the dynamic of our conversation, rather than me just like being uncomfortable and getting mad and then we like don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I've been able to have that awareness of like, okay, hold on, like this conversation's making me very uncomfortable, and I just need I need a little bit of time, and like, can we talk about this? Let me process what you've already told me and like have a little bit of time and just be patient with me. And then let's resume this conversation when I like process what you've already given me.
Yeah. So I think having that mindfulness practice and learning to slow your thoughts down gives you that space to learn how to take that pause, take that breath, and react in control of the situation and in control of your emotions versus always having the knee-jerk reaction where we get defensive, we get mad, we get upset. And again, not that it's bad to feel those emotions, but if that's what we're always doing, it's always that quick knee-jerk getting defensive, that doesn't help anybody. So learning to practice on your own time how to take those pauses, then when it happens in the moment, it's easier for you to tap into that, like we've been saying.
Yeah. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left. I want to hear your guys' takeaways. I know a lot of you guys aren't on camera. If you don't mind turning your camera on so we can see some faces instead of just some names. Becky, what are your biggest takeaways?
Oh my gosh, like this whole conversation was amazing just because today was a bad day.
Oh, hugs.
And just like, oh, thank you. Just with everything, like everything is just so spot on with the habit stacking, with slowing your thoughts down. I mean, I had a very emotional morning and all of I kept doing was just like my thoughts were going super, 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 super fast and I was running on emotion and it's like, okay. And then I'm talking about taking some drastic actions. And it's like, wait a minute, like I have to think this through because if I do these drastic actions, it just not only affects me, it affects everybody in my family. So it's like, I'm so glad I popped on here because this is like the best thing I could apply towards my life right now. So I thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Becky. All right, Kim, what are your takeaways?
I have two. Your thoughts are not your identity. That one hit me today. And I agree with it 100%, but I struggle with that. And then confidence is a journey. That one struck me as well. So this has been really, really good. I've been taking notes. I actually type some into my notes in my phone so I can go back to them on my days that I'm not in a good headspace.
Good. Go back to them on days when you are in a good headspace too. Because that will help. Like something I found is when I memorize my affirmations, they're already here when I need them. So like, when I notice like my thoughts going into a downward spiral, I catch myself, I don't know if you guys know this, but like when I struggled with postpartum depression after my son, I had like suicidal thoughts for almost a year. And it was so hard. Like there were days where I was just like, surviving was hard. Like keeping myself alive was hard. And I had my affirmations like on my phone all the time. And anytime I noticed my thoughts going into this downward spiral, I would immediately pull out my phone. And I swear that was my lifeline. Like it saved my life. And I would read out all these positive affirmations about how much I love my kids, how I had angels surrounding me and watching after me, that I was a daughter of God, that people love me, that I had an amazing future ahead of me waiting for me, and that I could use this experience to help other women. And pretty soon I didn't even need my phone anymore. As soon as I would go in this negative spiral, my brain would automatically start telling me all these positive things. And it became like just amazing. Like it was incredible because, I don't know, I was able to like rewire and retrain my thoughts and my brain through affirmations. And it really is like such a powerful, powerful thing. And again, like when I say it saved my life, it literally saved my life. Having those affirmations and taking that time to train the way my thoughts work. We really can't be intentional. Sorry, I'm gonna. But being intentional with our thoughts and like being intentional with the future that we want to create. And like, we can let it just happen to us, or we can choose it. And I think right now with everything going on in our country, you look on like your Facebook feed or different things, social media, there's so much negativity. And I think that, a lot of the news and stuff, it's like we can be so easily brainwashed. Like people want to tell us what to think and tell us what to feel. And we will so easily get caught in that trap if we're not careful and if we're not intentional. And so like, I don't even open my phone. Okay, I'm not perfect at this. I'm not gonna say never, but more often than not. And I'm trying to make this like a part of me and my habit, but like not looking at my phone until like 10 a.m. Like I wake up, I'm with my kids, I get them ready, I get them to school, I go work out at the gym, and then I come home and I get ready, and then I get on my phone, I get on social media, I work, but other than like music, I like try so hard not to get on my phone at all in the morning until I've set my intention and I've taken care of myself and I've like been with my kids. So
I wanted to mention too, with how you're saying you'd go to your phone for your affirmations, that like I know me personally, there's so many a million things you can do on your phone, so it can be so easy to get distracted or to just get overwhelmed and be like, well, I'm not going to go find it. Like make it easy on yourself. Do things that will help remind you to look at or do your affirmations. So if habit stacking, maybe you're not finding the right habit to attach it to, or something else is going on and you're not remembering during the course of the day to pull out your affirmations, you can do things like write them on sticky notes and place them in different spots. Like I used to keep a sticky note in my car. So like every time I got in my car to drive to this one job that I used to have that I hated really badly, I would have that in front of me every time I got in my car to be like, okay, I'm going to reframe my mindset today. Set reminders on your phone so that they pop up, rather than you having to go search for them. I used to have, the app stopped working for me, which is why I stopped doing it. But I used to have an alert from this app called If This Then That, and it would send me right around the time my alarm was going to go off every morning. I would have it send me a couple different affirmations to start my day with. So, just little tricks and hacks like that to help you keep the practice going. If you know that there are other pitfalls that you can fall into, find ways to make it easy on yourself, because that's a real thing too. Like we always look for the path of least resistance. Like, and a good example that I have of that is like, me wanting to practice playing the keyboard. There's so much stuff sitting on it and in front of it. So even though it's a simple act to move those things, it's a real thing that if it's not easy for me to get to the keyboard to go practice it, I'm not going to practice it. I'm going to choose the path of least resistance. If it's there and it's open and it's inviting and ready for me, sure, why not? Let's sit down, So do things that make it easy on yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Kim, thank you so much too for sharing your biggest takeaways. Barbara or Nisha, do you have any takeaways before we go?
I'm gonna have to go back and like listen to everything because I've been like putting groceries away and dealing with kids. But I like the story about like what you say to people like makes a big difference, and what you say to yourself. Like that's such a good example of what you say to yourself will impact you. And so I found that story was like really stood out to me. So, and also just like, I liked Heidi, when you mentioned memorizing affirmations, I have a really hard time coming up with affirmations, but I like the idea of writing them out and just like memorizing them so that it's effortless. So those are my takeaways, but I'm looking forward to going through and watching again.
Okay, good. Something I've done that goes along with the habit stacking is just, I got a whiteboard marker and wrote a few affirmations on my mirror so that they're there when I'm brushing my teeth and washing my face at night. And saying them out loud is awesome. Like,
really quick funny story, if you don't mind. There was, I don't know if you've ever heard like when people suggest like that you go put like positive messages all around, like, you know, different places, like, you know, go put them around your office and, you know, just stick them in places where people are going to find them. Like, I always thought that was a cool idea, but I've never done it. But all of a sudden one day I saw someone had done it at the gym that I work at. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But you know where I found mine? In the bathroom stall. And it said, trust that you are exactly where you need to be right now. I know what the intention was behind that,
so
but
funny.
that's not, I mean, I am where I need to be right now, but that's.
That's hilarious. I love that. You know, when you said like, don't put them around public places, that was immediately what I thought of was a bathroom stall.
Nothing wrong with that. It was just funny what it said. I'm like, yeah, I kind of am where I need to be right now.
I know, right? That's so funny. Nisha, are you able to come off mute?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, the laptop I'm on, the camera's not working. So sorry, but I think just for me, like, it's grace. Like, I think we're so good at giving other people grace. We really are, especially those that are closest to us, people that we really love. Like, when they screw up, it's like we're like, it's okay, and we're encouraging them. But I don't think we always do that for ourselves. And I know for me personally, I mean, I've had some major screw ups in life, you know, that have impacted people around me. And so you know, over time that gets better, but just always allowing yourself grace and always, you know, just knowing that you have done your best, you know? So, anyway, that's important. And then I really like, you know, switching things around in regards to like doing the opposite. Like, so what you're telling yourself, tell yourself the opposite. I just finished a book called The Alter Ego, and he talks about that, how, you know, if you're not believing that you can do something, you know, switch that around and reframe how you're talking to yourself. So I like that as well too. But everything was great, Kerri and Heidi. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nisha. Thank you, Barbara and Kim and Becky, for jumping on. And thank you so much, Kerri. This was amazing. I have, you know, 2 pages of notes here that I'm excited to share with everybody. And yeah, any final words?
Yeah, just I'm glad that this was helpful for people. That makes me feel good to know that, you know, people have gotten something out of us, because that's just what I strive for. Like, I want to help people and improve people's confidence in their lives. And you guys are more than welcome to, you know, come follow me on Instagram or go listen to my podcast, and I'd love to connect with you and be there on your journey.
I'll put the links to all of your social media and your podcast for sure in our Facebook group, so that way they can find you.
Yeah, and if you go to my website too, there's, like I said, that free ebook about creating your own affirmations. So if that's something you're struggling with, you're more than welcome to go download that and use that as a resource.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, at the end of our calls, we always go peace, love, gains. All right. Barbara, you want to do it with us? Peace, love, and gains. All right. Love, gains. We'll see you later.
Bye.